Welcome to the TruCoach Podcast, where you'll find industry-specific, actionable methods to help you build a supercharged home improvement or home services business. From leads to leadership, we exist to help you and your team successfully grow. TruCoach is your single source of truth for organizations looking to scale. Brought to you by TruVolve. You'll get exclusive access to leaders who have been there and done that, and the wisdom that only comes from experience. Proven strategies for you and your team to implement.
Hi friends, Brian Gottlieb here with TruCoach, and today we have another fantastic guest, my good friend Scott Berman, the founder and CEO of Florida Window and Door. Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Great to see you.
So are we coming from, you've got a cool background going on there. Where are you meeting us from?
That's my office ceiling because I can't, the camera doesn't fit on my screen for some reason.
Okay. All right, that's great. I know you've been on a lot of podcasts. I know a lot of people know you, but for those that don't know you, maybe you can give a little bit of background about your business. I mean, your business started in what, 1983?
Well, my dad started in 1983. I started Florida Window and Door in 2009. And it's now 2026. We have offices throughout the state of Florida. And then we were fortunate enough to buy 4 companies from Leaf Home, which included Stormtight Texas, Stormtight Florida, Miracle Window, and Window Works in Chicago. So we're integrating those companies into our platform. And I've been doing this for a long time. It's gone fast, though. That's for sure.
Yeah. So you're in how many markets now?
We're in, the entire state of Florida, Houston, and Chicago specifically. So I mean, probably 11 markets if you break it down in Florida between all the states.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, I always wanted to ask you, look, there's so much temptation about how to grow a business, right? Do we take on the new, cool, shiny product that's coming along? And I mean, that is one way to grow, but you've chose to just stick with windows and doors. Help me understand that. What was your decision-making process like?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great question because every time I look at all the bath guys and they're killing it, I'm like, maybe we should do baths. But the truth of the matter is that Florida is so complicated in terms of pulling the permits and doing the process of getting the job ready to install that I just decided like it was really better to focus on windows and doors and to keep our process the same regardless of how many offices we open. And I've been reluctant to try another product because, quite frankly, I just don't think that I have the intellectual capacity to do multiple products. And I almost think that our business model is let's keep it simple and open more offices as opposed to just piling on more products. And it's not a conversation that we haven't had, or I'm more open to it now maybe than I have been in the past. But I'm still like, do I really want to try something new, or can I just keep doing what I'm doing and maintain being good at it and continually get better? I mean, that's the best answer I could give you.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said for having that kind of discipline, right? A lot of times we can drown in opportunity, right? Everything looks shiny, this shiny new object everywhere. You probably see that with a lot of. I know you mentor a lot of people. You probably talk people out of those kind of things of getting too complicated in their business.
Well, the reason that always is given to me for offering more products is because you can convert the lead to multiple products. And I understand that if it's maybe windows and roofing. I'm not sure I understand it if it's like windows and kitchens. Maybe it's bath and kitchens. I think, people get really fixated in my group on the, combination of multiple products. And then what I find is they're not spending enough money on one product to promote it, but they're spending it on the other. And oftentimes, and I'm sure you see the same thing, they have no idea what the profitability is of every product. They can't tell you. It's like, well, I think I'm doing okay in roofing. Well, why don't you know? So I just think in my case, it's like, let's just keep it simple. We're fortunate enough where we have a large average order because of the markets we're in. And we've been lucky. I mean, we're in a good market for that. So I've just never really done it. I do think that there may come a time when we do it, but at this point, we're not close.
Yeah. And this recent acquisition that you went through, what was the biggest surprise or the biggest challenge, like in the first 90 days, or maybe you're dealing with it still? Who knows?
I'm still dealing with it, but it's getting better. The biggest challenge was, and I think that we're seeing this across our platform in the sense that, meaning our industry, that these private equity guys really, and I don't mean to cast any negative, aspersions on anybody, but these private equity guys really just don't value the employee.
Right.
And they don't value the culture that a lot of us have built in our company. And I understand it from a standpoint of you can take all the money and it's as the founder, that's your goal, is to sell out. But what I'm finding on the companies that we bought is they had a lot of good people that were just ignored. And that, in the scheme of Leaf, in the size of Leaf, $100 million business in this case was really not important, and most importantly, the business model of having a longer installation time was different than what Leaf was used to. And so as a result of that, I think they neglected what was going on, and they had no interest in growing because their money could grow faster in their other markets. And I think it just got lost in the shuffle. So we were able to come in. And, like in Chicago and Window Works, there's a tremendous amount of good people there. They just had no leadership. And, I think also what's interesting is they had this huge overhead for whatever reason that they never wanted to get rid of. So we were able to get rid of a lot of overhead and then basically recapitalize the business, market the business, grow the sales leadership and grow the salesmen. And then now we're starting to see constant revenue flow. And it's no different than what you would do if you took over one of these businesses. It's the same thing. You see the structure is there, but nobody's feeding the structure. And I think that's really the biggest thing.
I think one of the mistakes I see a lot of businesses make, like when they're trying to open up a new market, they want to take on this big facility and take on all this overhead as they open up a new market. And it's like, to me, it's, well, let's just prove we can actually sell stuff first. What's your philosophy on that? When you start to open up a new location, what do you think about?
I am liability light, I call it. That's my motto. I want no liabilities. I want the smallest location. I want the least amount of people. I want to centralize as much as I can. And then I want to grow sales. And if I can grow sales and profitable sales, if I can grow sales profitably, I know the rest will take care of itself. But, we're a big believer in centralization, specifically all of our offices. If you were to go to a Florida Window and Door branch in Florida, you would see two warehouse guys, a sales team assigned to a branch, a sales manager who has a couple different locations, and really no internal office infrastructure because that's all done in corporate. So our installation department, our service departments are all centralized in our corporate office. And that allows us the flexibility to really run what we call a skinny branch with very little overhead, where we can make money at $3 to $4 million in revenue that is contribution margin to the larger entity. So that's really how we built it. Obviously the acquisition companies are a little bit different, but we're going to that model as well. But I'm a big believer in you can't have a lot of liabilities. Like you just can't have a lot of long-term risk because these companies can't sustain it over time. You have to be able to deal with the ebbs and the flows of the business. And sales are not always going to be great. And I look at it like every fixed cost that we have is $1 less that I can spend in marketing, which is really the true generation of building the business is the marketing.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And I see people, the recommendation I give to people when they ask me how to do it, as small as possible for an office, right? The shortest possible lease you can get yourself into, because if it works, you're going to outgrow your building anyway.
And that happened to us. I mean, when I first started, we were in an executive suite in one office. And then I took 2 offices and 3 offices and 4 offices. And I remember moving into our building where we are now, which we ended up buying. And we had this like 30,000 square foot building. And I'm like, what are we going to do with this? Well, now it's I own like 7 other buildings next to it that every department has their own building. But I mean, if you would have told me 10 years ago, we would be outgrowing this building, I would think you're crazy, but we are. But I believe that you can't start out that way. And I've never lost sight of the fact that, our overhead needs to be really low compared to our volume. I don't need managers managing managers. That doesn't, we use a working manager model. Everybody works.
Yeah, I think that's important. Everybody should be a co-producer. And look, I think the first thing you run out of in any building is parking spaces, right? It's funny how this business works.
Yeah, that's my building.
Yeah, it's really funny. And so I want to go back to when you open up another location, or even when you've acquired a few locations. And I want to go back to culture. When you open up a new place, do you try to relocate somebody from your business that knows your culture, or are you just hiring everybody new in a market?
We've done it both ways. We've done it three ways. We've left the previous management in place. We've left previous ownership in place, and we've brought in our own people. And I can tell you, in my experience, previous ownership doesn't work. Like that's not going to work for us. So we typically will bring a manager from another location and relocate them to one of our existing facilities, or if it's an acquisition, we will bring that. But if we have somebody that we're opening a new location and we offer that job to anybody in our organization, and then we also recruit outside, and the best candidate wins. So, I understand, and I'm a big proponent of promoting from within, but I also think it's exceptionally helpful to bring outside people in to break the glass and change the culture. And, using a person that we hired from your old company, he's broken the culture a little bit. It took him a long time to get acclimated to our way of doing business, but, he's brought a lot of good things that you had at your company, probably directly from you, with him. So I think there's an advantage to doing both. I just think it's a question of, most importantly, finding the right person that fits what you're trying to get to and ultimately fits your culture as well.
Yeah, and as long as people understand what the expectations are, and they have certain KPIs they have to live to also, which is the kind of the next question I want to go to with you is, you've got a big business. You've got a lot of locations, a lot of moving pieces to that. What numbers, what KPIs do you try to look at every single day or every single week? I want to start with daily.
All right, so I look at it as a mathematical formula. Effectively, I'm looking at leads coming in every day. And then I'm looking at it on a more granular basis on where the leads are coming from, because I think you can have multiple lead sources, but you have what we call high intent and low intent leads. I'm really focusing on where the high intent leads are coming from, because in my mind, if you tell me what the high intent leads are, and let's say they're 30 to 40% of your lead volume, I know that the next day I'm going to have a good sales day. If conversely 70 to 80% of my leads come from aggregators, I know I'm going to have a bad lead day. Chances are I'm going to have a worse sales day. So I think the marketing mix is critically important. And then, so I'm looking at that every night. I get a report every night sent to me once the call center closes. And then I'm just looking at standard KPIs, sales every day, leads issued every day, cancellations every day. So I'm actively involved on the lead side, watching that, because to me, if you know how many Google leads you're getting, you can figure out the revenue per lead in Google, and you can, on average, project out your sales numbers for the day, the week, the month, or whatever the case may be. If it skews too far the other way, let's say Quinn Street, which I know is a half of a revenue per lead model than what I have with Google, I know I'm in trouble, because my revenue is not going to match what I needed to match to break even that day or that month. So I'm a really big proponent of knowing the revenue per lead by source. And I think in many respects, it's more important than the cost, because I think you can back into the cost. So if, as an example, you're getting a revenue per lead of $5,000 for a Google, and you can a Google lead, and you can spend 20% of your marketing spend, you can spend $1,000 a lead on Google. So I think people don't understand, you can back into those numbers. and
Right.
then build your model. I think everybody's, and you and I may disagree, but I think we're on the same page. It's like everybody is saying, well, get me 100 leads. Well, even though I would never publicly acknowledge this, even though this is public to my sales force, not every lead is created equal.
Correct.
And I think also, as you can attest as well, setting of an aggregator lead requires a lot more labor than setting a Google lead. So you also have to factor that in. So I think there's a mix, but you have to be comfortable with that mix on what works and what doesn't work. And if you skew to the wrong direction, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, you have to be intentional. You have to do it with a strategy behind it, not just. And look, you and I both know you can get flooded with a lot of crappy leads that aren't worth. They're not worth the paper it's written on, right?
Right, but I think you would also agree. Like when we go to these meetings and we speak, and you ask the average person, "How are you going to increase your business?" The first answer is, "I'm going to get more leads." Like that's the first answer. I did a podcast on wealthy contractor recently where I said, I'm on a mission. Like, I don't want more leads. I want better leads with a higher closing percentage. So let me work on both of those, and then I'll fill in the rest with more leads. But more leads is not the answer, especially in this environment. You can go broke.
I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make, and especially if they're not really tracking it properly and don't look at the entire life of a lead. It's not even like where did the lead come from? How did it close? Is this a source where I can maybe set a bunch of stuff and sell a bunch of stuff, but I can't get anything finance approved through it? All that stuff matters.
And I also think, like, in the old days when we first got started, you would spend 10% on advertising, let's say, and throw it on television, it would work. I think now with technology and everything that's going on, there's so much information available to you to narrow your lead search in terms of the quality of the lead. You could run streaming by credit score, by age of house. There's so many things like that are available that you have to have the ability to learn what your customer is and respond to the medium that is most likely to generate that customer. Like for me personally, I could care less if I see my name I don't want to see my name, but if I did on a billboard or on a TV commercial, or I only care about how many leads we're generating. The ego side of it, leave that for something else or someone else. But for me, it's how many leads are we generating? I'll stand in the background and watch. That's all I care about.
Yeah, that's great. And you have the person that runs all of your marketing is terrific, really fantastic. And so when somebody does miss target, somebody like that, somebody that's like the senior role that really knows the business, and they start missing target for 1, 2, 3 days, how do you interact with that person? How long do you let things go before you say, I need to make a phone call, we need to deal with this together?
So, I mean, to look at it every day and evaluate a person every day, I'm not a real big believer in. I'm more of a 30-day, 60-day type person. But it also has to do with the fact of how long we've been in business and the financial capacity that we have to withstand tests. So I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying what I do. But at the end of the day, I think if you're watching the sales, you can see the trends develop. And I think you can see where you're going wrong. It's there. It may be a puzzle. It may be a little bit hard to find. But I am very good, as I'm sure you were, and my gut feeling tells me something is wrong. I just don't necessarily know how to articulate what is wrong, but I know something's wrong. So I start looking around, and I've been using a lot of AI to start to look at reports and confirm what I'm feeling. So for example, if our lead mix is wrong, I'm sticking that into AI saying, what am I missing? And within seconds, it's like, look, a week ago, your Google campaigns were 70% of your business. Now they're 30%. Well, now I know what my problem is. Whereas 2 years ago, that would have taken me 5 years to figure out, or 5 days, whatever. Now it takes me seconds. So I think it's very easy to take your reports from your CRM, download it into Claude or OpenAI, and say, take a look at this for me. Give me an idea. And it populates the idea. And I encourage everybody to do that, because you can change direction a lot faster. And the information is there.
Yeah, I think that's great. They're really great advice. So in between running Florida Window and Door and merging companies that you've acquired, you also spend a lot of your time coaching and mentoring people. You do. And so tell me why. What do you get out of that?
I think you would answer this the same way, and you do it way more than I do. I think it's a way of giving back. And I think that, a lot of these companies that mutually we speak to are when they first meet you, are really scared to come up to you, especially you compared to me, but they don't want to come up to you. And then you like listen to what their issues are. And you're like, I remember that issue when I first started. And so I think it's a way of giving back. Selfishly, I will acknowledge that I've gotten some amazing ideas from some of these companies that they just couldn't scale that I was able to scale. So I get both, but I think the real reason is I enjoy it. I'm having it reminds me often of how we got started and how difficult the struggle was and how the struggle really never ends no matter what size you are. And, it's fun. I mean, I really take great pleasure in it. I met people I would have never met before. I consider them my friends. And I'm enjoying myself. And I think it just reminds me every day where I came from.
Yeah.
And I think that's important no matter what the size is of your company.
I'm with you on that. Look, we've both been very fortunate with our business journey, but it hasn't been a straight line up. It's been full of bumps and potholes. And if we can maybe stop somebody else from stepping in a pothole that we stepped in, then it's probably a good day.
Well, and that's the thing that's so funny is I think most of these companies think it's like there's this golden ticket that we can give them. And what they don't really understand is we're changing every day. We're improving every day, breaking things every day. And when they hear that from you or from me, I think it adds credibility to what they're doing because, I'm as insecure today as I was 10 or 15 years ago. I just have a longer runway to be successful because of the ability of the profitability of our business. But I still go to sleep every night concerned as if it were 15 years ago. And it sounds crazy, but I just do. And so, when I think when I stop doing that, it'll be the time when I know it's time to retire. You can add more light than I can on that subject. But to me, it's like every day is a struggle. We eat what we kill every single day. And the minute we lose that edge, we're in trouble.
Yeah. And this is the type of business where you're out of business at the end of every day and you start the next day on what did you sell, right? And me too, by the way, it's interesting. And maybe it was just because, I grew a business really fast and never really knowing never being 100% confident in anything. And it's hard because there is no university where you can learn home improvements. You kind of got to figure it out for yourself. And talk to people like you, talk to people like me to go to things like the Wealthy Contractor or Accelerator or all the other conferences. But look, I think we're all on a similar journey that we're trying to figure out business together, and we can do it together if we can talk to each other.
Right, and I mean, not to give you a plug, but I think your book, Beyond the Hammer, was exactly that. Here's a guy struggling every single day, struggling. If you in the home improvement business can't relate to that, it's every day. So to me, it was such a great story because it was our daily life, like every day. Now I don't hear about customers as much as I used to, but every once in a while I get, an upset customer that emails me. But at the end of the day, we eat what we kill every single day. And the minute we lose that edge, we're in trouble. And the bigger you get just means you need more food. That's it.
That's right. So you mentioned a little bit ago about you just want to do better with the appointments that you have and convert them up better. And I kind of want to go down the rabbit hole of Heavy Set, your newest venture, right? I took a demo of it, by the way. It is so, and I know some people using it too, and they love it. It is so cool. Maybe you can explain to people what it is and why you decided to get into it. It's really cool.
So on a top line level, from 20,000 feet, basically what it does is it schedules appointments when by text for customers who don't want to talk to a human or an AI bot. And it's based on real time and availability into your sales schedule. And so what it allows us to do, we developed it for ourselves 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even 5 now. And we basically did it for 2 or 3 years. We didn't tell anybody about it. And then I showed it to somebody and they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. I would like to try it. Can I buy it? I'm like, I don't really know how to sell it to anybody. So, but the premise really behind it was, my wife, every time we go out to dinner, is like scrolling Amazon, looking for something to buy while we're driving. But yet, if you were to try that set an appointment using a home improvement company, you could never do that because the call center's closed. Under this scenario, you're always open. And so from a standpoint of quantity of leads, what we do is 50 to 60% of our leads every day are coming from heavyset, meaning that what the customer is telling us is that the customer doesn't want to talk to a voice. They want to have the convenience to schedule by text, confirm it using AI, that the appointment is real, that you're not going to call the person the next day and say, oh, by the way, I don't have 10 o'clock, but I got 11 o'clock. Can we come out at 11? They want a frictionless experience in setting an appointment. And the best analogy that I would give you is that I recently sat down with my call center and asked them to go through our scripting process. And they went through our scripting process, and it took 13 and a half minutes to set and confirm an appointment. And I sat there and I was like, there's no way that I would ever do this. And then I said, imagine this. You are one company, and they're setting 3 leads with 3 different companies. Every one of our companies has the same script. Are you the homeowner? How long have you owned the home? How many windows do you need? That's the ultimate friction when people have no patience. And yet we have a script that's like from 1965, as if there's no internet. So all of these things are contributing to the success of heavyset, but the consumer is the one who's saying, this is how we want to set leads. And I tell this to everybody, heavyset is not designed to be in lieu of your call center. It's in addition to. So in other words, we still have a call center. We still use AI, and we have both. We have an AI bot, and we have a voice bot, and we also have our agent, we call it, and also we have live agents as well. But what we've been able to do is reduce the amount of people in our call center and reduce the hours because of heavyset. And so that's really what it's there for. The customers are responding. What's interesting is that the average order is higher, the cancellation rate on leads is lower, which means your issued set rate is higher, and ultimately you can't get a faster speed to lead because we're telling the consumer, basically once that lead hits our CRM, they're getting a message with heavyset saying, would you like to schedule an appointment? Thank you for calling Florida Window and Door, or contacting Florida Window and Door. Would you like to call us to schedule an appointment? Or you can set this appointment right now clicking on this link. And 60% of the people are clicking on the link. So, and the last point I would make to you is what's also crazy is every night when we leave here, the next morning we have 40 leads being set by heavyset for Google campaigns that we're running overnight that are less expensive because our competitors are not there and it's not optimal time. So it wins on every metric.
Yeah, it's setting appointments while everybody's while you're sleeping.
Correct.
That's always a good thing.
Correct. And it's I didn't mean to interrupt you. And it's only for people or companies that understand the value of a lead cost. Like if you don't know what your lead cost is, don't call heavyset because it's not going to help you. But if you do understand the value of a lead and what it costs you every single day, heavyset is for you. And it doesn't matter what the size of the company is.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool when I looked at my friend's website and they had a plugin. It was a heavy set plugin on the website where the customer can go to the landing page. They can schedule an appointment right then and there, and then the text stream. And I tested it. I went I saw the customer journey. It was a great one. I think it's really fantastic. Congratulations for getting it going.
Thank you.
So if somebody wants to learn more about Heavyset, who do they speak to? How do they?
You can reach out to heavyset.tech is the inquiry page, and they'll call you to schedule a demo. And it's easy to set up. It's not really overly complicated. It's not expensive for what it does. It's really designed on a model that is based on usage. So if you don't use it, you pay very little, and as you use it more, you pay a little more. But we want to be successful with you, not be one of a big, huge tech stack expense for you or for any company. So it's heavyset.tech is how you get there.
Heavyset.tech. And because you're in the business, it's interesting. You own a home improvement company. You know the pain that inside of the call center, the pain as a business owner. So you look at everything through a different lens, which is you don't look at it through the lens of being somebody that owns a tech company. You look at it through the lens of somebody that actually is in the same business. You're in the home improvement business. So
what's interesting about that is we're not a box. So if somebody has an idea and it has merit, we're happy to implement that idea and pass it along to everybody in the Heavyset tech customer base. So as an example, somebody said, "Hey, can we use this for shows?" And we're like, "Sure." So we developed it for shows. What's great about it is you're sitting at a show and you fill out a Heavyset form on an iPad at the booth, and then immediately you get a calendar invite, and you're also TCPA compliant because they're giving you permission to speak to the customer. And we use it for canvassing as well. But what's also interesting is when that customer goes to the competitor booth and they're compiling pieces of paper to call them at a later date, you've already set the appointment.
Yeah.
And in case you didn't notice, everybody's concerned with their personal information. So nobody wants to give out an address and a telephone number at a show to somebody they don't know, but they're happy to put it into a computer and it disappears. So there's a million instances like that for this. And it's just a great tool to generate leads.
Yeah, and you're integrated with all the CRMs out there too, which also makes it a lot easier.
And TruVol as well. We love them. So
yeah.
It's been a great relationship.
Yeah, well, Chris, Scott, I really do appreciate you popping on by and chatting with people out there, giving people some wisdom about how to run a healthy business, what numbers to look at, and I do recommend people take a good look at heavyset.tech. It'll change your world.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, my friend. And to all my friends out in TruCoach land, appreciate you watching.
Have a great summer.
You've been tapped into the TruCoach Podcast from TruVolve. Home improvement and home services experts helping professionals like you get better results faster. Subscribe and follow on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for more expert insights. From digital marketing to business coaching, TruVolve is dedicated to helping your business grow. Learn more and have your light bulb moment at truvolve.com.